This was the aircraft that the entire aviation industry took great pride in building. It was the world's first and last supersonic passenger aircraft model, known today as the Concorde. Supersonic means it flies faster than the speed of sound, whisking passengers across the Atlantic Ocean in just 3.5 hours. However, the world watched in shock when on July 25, 2000, in just 121 seconds, its 30-year service came to an end. The model of this aircraft had to be discontinued forever. Before takeoff, there were no issues with the aircraft, but after the crash, blame was placed on a tiny metal strip during the investigation. How could a small metal strip cause a 110,000-kilogram aircraft to crash? And what happened to the Concorde afterward? Air France Flight 4590, which was supposed to fly from Paris's Charles de Gaulle Airport to John F. Kennedy Airport in New York. There were a total of 100 passengers, 6 cabin crew, and 3 pilots on board. The legendary aircraft was the Concorde, considered the most stylish aircraft in the aviation industry to date. Its greatest feature was that it flew at double the speed of a normal passenger aircraft, cutting the journey from America to Europe from 7 hours to just 3.5. Its top speed was 2180 kilometers per hour. Behind this high speed was its impressive wing design, known as the Delta Wing. This wing is commonly seen in fighter jets, but engineers also installed it in the Concorde for the same reason, to fly at supersonic speeds. However, the problem with this Delta Wing was that it required too much speed for takeoff. Not only speed, but also the angle of attack of the aircraft, meaning the angle at which the nose of the aircraft rises during takeoff was more than other planes. For comparison, during takeoff of a normal passenger plane, the angle of attack is much lower, while in Concorde, the angle of attack was so high that the pilot could not see the runway ahead. This is why the nose of Concorde was kept flexible, so it could be lowered during takeoff for the pilot to see everything ahead. Moving away from the angle of attack to speed, the takeoff speed of a Boeing 737 reaches 140 knots or 160 kilometers per hour, while Concorde had to reach speeds of up to 200 knots, which is 230 kilometers per hour. Due to such high speeds, Concorde's tires experienced pressure beyond their limit, and in many incidents, these tires burst. During its 30-year service, Concorde's tires burst 57 times, but there was no major damage. Now, because these tires burst at very high speeds, pieces of the tire would hit the wing at bullet speed, risking wing puncture. And because, like other aircraft, Concorde's fuel was stored in the wings, any minor tire burst could cause fuel leaks. This is why engineers made some changes to its landing gear in the early models of Concorde, making the tires stronger. These changes largely solved the problem of Concorde's tire bursts. At noon on July 25, 2000, at 2:30 p.m., Air France Flight 4590 was fully prepared for departure. Both pilots and a flight engineer were highly experienced. After boarding the passengers, they requested permission from the tower to go to the runway. Paris Airport has 2 runways, 26 and 26R. Runway 26R is a long runway, and Concorde also needed a long runway for takeoff. Therefore, the control tower gave them permission to go to 26R. Taxiing from Romeo to runway 26R, flight 4590 aligned itself. But the problem was that a DC-10 aircraft from Continental Airlines was already ready for takeoff on 26R, the same runway where Concorde had to take off. First, the DC-10 had to take off, followed by Concorde. During this time, the captain of Concorde performed flight checks, which is a normal procedure before takeoff. These flight checks include checking the weight and fuel of the aircraft again, because the takeoff depends on it. Well, when the DC-10 of Continental Airlines started its takeoff, a small metal strip separated from its right engine and fell on the runway. The captain of Concorde did not notice this and took off. The time difference between the takeoff of the DC-10 and Concorde was so small that there was no time for runway inspection. And during that time, runway inspections were only done twice a day at airports in France. Now it was the turn of Air France. After getting permission from the control tower for takeoff, the thrust levers were engaged. This meant that all 4 engines were running at full power. At this moment, it was 2:42 in the afternoon. At 2:43 and 9 seconds, the Concorde took a slight left turn. Remember, all this information was also being stored in the Concorde's flight recorder, also known as the black box. The left turn was not made by the pilot but by its left landing gear, which climbed onto the metal strip that had fallen from the DC-10's engine. The left wheel, which already had so much pressure, burst with a blast. Now the question arises, How the investigation team found out that the tire burst because of the metal strip. The flight recorder at the second, when the aircraft took a left turn, had recorded the location, which was the same location where the investigation team found the metal strip. So, there was a 99% chance that the tire burst due to this metal strip. However, it will also be proven in the video that this metal strip belonged to DC-10 only. The leftmost tire had already burst, and everything happened so quickly that no one noticed it. But the next moment, what engineers had suspected happened. The pieces of the tire hit the fuel tank, and it burst, and now fuel started leaking. Not only that, but due to some reason, fire also ignited in it. At this moment, the aircraft started dragging towards the left, and the captain pressed the right pedal to set the company. Unaware that there was a fire in their aircraft, the air traffic controller noticed that the aircraft had taken off. As soon as it took off, both left engines stopped, emitting smoke due to fire, and the jet engine's front side had an air intake, which compresses the air inside it when the air is replaced with smoke. The compressor choked, causing both engines to fail. ATC informed the captain that there was a fire in their aircraft and asked them to land back immediately. Flight 4590 of Concorde was now only relying on 2 right engines. Due to both engines shutting down, Concorde could not gain much altitude. It was difficult to maintain its current altitude. The fire in the left wing started melting the flap, causing the Concorde to start turning left. The captain turned the aircraft to the right to set the company, but this caused the speed to decrease, and the speed was the only thing that could save the Concorde at that time. Finally, at 2:44 and 31 seconds, the Concorde's left turn increased significantly, and it collided with a hotel building. This accident took the lives of 109 people on the Concorde and 4 people on the ground. Immediately after the accident, the crash site was sealed, and the investigation started. As I mentioned earlier, the investigators searched the part of the runway where the Concorde took a left turn, and they found that metal strip there. They examined the DC-10 of Continental Airlines, and indeed, the right engine was missing that metal plate. When the investigation team checked the maintenance history of Continental Airlines, they found that this metal strip had been repaired multiple times, which was against engine manufacturer's SOP. After this accident, all other Concorde aircrafts were grounded because the tires could burst at high speed, which was a well-known issue. In this situation, operating them again was impossible in any way. That was the point when the Concorde was permanently discontinued and kept in a museum forever. Perhaps in the future, humans may be able to travel at supersonic speeds again. But for now, we only know that 31 years have passed in history, during which humans traveled faster than the speed of sound. I hope you will enjoy this video and share your affectionate comments. Thank you very much. We will meet in the next amazing video.